Guys, really poor weather here where I am, but I've really been trying to understand. There was a time when Gaten Mackenzie, when he was speaking about the Government of National Unity (GNU), and he spoke about some of the benefits of the GNU having different parties mixed together, and how I don't know if it was Colonel Mulder himself, but maybe one leader from the Freedom Front Plus, who actually said that in a joke, I think they were cracking a joke, and that leader argued that the FF Plus is the Pan-African Congress for white people. And so he was using that example as a way to really show the potency of working together, white, black, Indian, and colored in South Africa going forward. And I'm beginning to see that kind of leadership in the leadership and the speeches of Colonel Mulder. This is the FF Plus leader. And I've always been really struggling to understand how it is that the United States invited these Afrikaner representatives to let them allay to them the final preconditions for a U.S. South Africa reset, which President Ramaphosa and his team actually sought to achieve in the last visit by the South African president to the U.S. I really struggle to understand why it is that the Afrikaners then needed to be invited once more and all of that. But anyway, here in this set of videos, I'll be making two videos here. But Colonel Mulder actually explained some of the reasons why it, that kind of demand was necessary. And he argues that it appeared that it seems that the U.S. was reading the fact that it seems that the discussions they had at the time weren't really being listened to. In other words, the U.S. wasn't really being heard in South Africa. So probably they needed another route to pass the same message, which maybe they might have passed to the first team, maybe President Cyril Ramaphosa and his team when they visited the White House. But here in this video anyway, Colonel Mulder is actually trying to make us understand that, that there are four conditions that South Africa has to meet in order to achieve a South Africa-US reset. And those four conditions are what he's going to be stating in this video, which I don't want to spill the beans, but you're going to watch it yourself. But there are four conditions. Colonel Mulder is actually clear that the U.S. actually wants these four conditions to be met before reset in terms of economic relationships between South Africa and the U.S. would actually be achieved. He also actually says that, the U.S. actually really wants to work with South Africa, but it sees many obstacles, and he'll be saying that in this video. You guys will be listening to it yourself, and the fact that the issues with the whole thing, that the White House has a message. For me, this was the most striking part. The White House has a message for South Africa, but somehow it appears as though it wasn't able to pass that message across when the president and his team visited South Africa. And so there had to be another delegate, an Afrikaner delegate, comprising of Colonel Mulder, Gerhard Pappenfaust, and Theo de Jager, to really go and receive that message. And in this video, Colonel Mulder is actually explaining to us his own part, for which I'll be making the next video to analyze how Theo de Jager actually explains what the United States expects in terms of pursuit of a reset from the farming wing of South Africa. We know that the farming wing has actually suffered a lot of media narratives about farm murders and the whole thing with kill the boer, kill the farmer. But the U.S. has certain things which Theo de Jager will be explaining for us in the next video I'll be making. But let's quickly listen to Colonel Mulder actually explain from his perspective what he thinks that Donald Trump actually wants to pass across to South Africa in order to pursue a reset, which maybe wasn't really passed across effectively when President Ramaphosa and his team visited the White House some time ago. And share your thoughts, guys, in the comments.
I want to start off by saying we did not go to the United States to complain. We were not going there as a complaint group that just want to go and say, this is bad, this is bad. That's not why we went. We made it clear right from the beginning that we would like to see our country prosper. We would like to see that our country is a success in terms of becoming, once again, a winning nation in a winning country. However, we are of the view that there are certain challenges that are making that very difficult and that are preventing that. And if we want to succeed, we needed to discuss these things in a very frank manner, and we did. I was amazed, and if I can just say this, Mr. Chris Opperman, who accompanied us, is based in Washington. Chris was a member of South Africa's Foreign Relations Department for many, many years prior to 1994, and he also served since 1994 for a stint. And he was able to assist us in terms of getting doors to open for us to be heard. And he will refer to that just now and give you his impression of what happened. I was impressed in terms of who were prepared to talk to us, who were prepared to see us. One of the important things that we came with after the visit was the request that we should communicate to South Africa, that we should communicate to the government, that in order to reset relations between the United States and South Africa, the White House, the Trump administration has got 4 specific, non-negotiable preconditions. And immediately it was queried afterwards by some. Some said, but that sounds very strange. How is it possible that the Trump administration will interact with a delegation like this and not officially with South Africa in terms of DIRCO? The reply was, they have done so, but they are concerned that it seems that they are not heard, that the things that they put on the table as preconditions to reset relations between the United States and South Africa is either not taken seriously or is not being heard. So we dealt with that. We had a very successful meeting in that regard, and Dr. De Jager will just now give an indication of how that process played out in terms of that meeting, in terms of how those preconditions were then communicated to South Africa. I also undertook that when I'm back, being part of the Government of National Unity, I will in writing communicate what came out of that meeting to President Ramaphosa. I undertook that to the White House, and also to the leaders of the other parties in the Government of National Unity. Interesting enough, I was on the plane this morning back from Cape Town, and in the business day of today, there's an interesting article that deals with this whole crisis, a whole issue dealing with trade and the tariff barriers that will come into effect a week from today. And in this article, I think it's on page 2, it quotes our Minister of Trade, Mr. Pakstau, and he basically goes ahead and then he says, there's a group of African countries that have now applied to the United States for a further exemption to give more time to negotiate. If that's going to be done, I don't know. It may be not. But interesting enough, he refers to a new template that comes from the United States, a template to assist countries in terms of making proposals for trade. And then there's a very interesting quote here which I read, which says the following: the framework, that's now the new template, the framework deal addresses US concerns relating to, among others, non-tariff barriers. And those non-tariff barriers are the things that were conveyed to us in the White House by the Trump administration. So one will make a huge mistake to just think it's about this, that, and the other. We can just quickly sit down and have a trade deal. From the United States, from the Trump administration's point of view, there are certain non-tariff barriers. And my colleagues will refer to that. So with that, from my side, as an opening statement, I think we had a very successful meeting, a series of meetings. It's not the first and only time. We've been asked by many of the people that we spoke to that we need to come back. We hope that this could bring, and we want to bring back to South Africa, a very positive and constructive message. The United States and the Trump administration wants to deal with South Africa in a positive manner, and there are vast opportunities. But there are certain problems that first need to be addressed. And we are bringing that back and say, let's address these things, and we can have a completely different situation. As an opening statement, thank you very much. I would like to give the opportunity to my colleagues, perhaps. Dr. Liu, would you like to go ahead?